When my boyfriend went online and told the world that I was some clingy control freak, I didn't scream, I didn't subtweet, and I didn't beg. I quietly changed my relationship status to single, canceled our wedding, and started packing his stuff into boxes. I'm Elena Carter, 29, and I'm writing this from an apartment that finally feels like mine again. No more extra toothbrush in the bathroom, no more size 11 sneakers by the door, no more forgotten hoodies hanging over the back of my chair. For months, it felt like I was living in a stranger's Airbnb, tiptoeing around moods and group chats and college nostalgia. Now it's just quiet. Quiet and honest. You'd think the breaking point would be the trip he booked with his ex, right? And don't worry, we'll get there. But for me, the real fracture started with one smug post and a few hundred likes. Women really think they own you just because you put a ring on their finger. Sorry, but I'm still my own person, with my own friends and my own life. If you can't handle that, you're not ready for marriage. That's what my almost husband, Adam, wrote about me. He didn't say my name, but he didn't have to. Our entire families, our coworkers, our mutual friends, everyone knew who he was engaged to. I watched the likes climb, the yes king comments roll in, the don't let her control you, bro replies. Somewhere in that mess, my 4-year relationship turned into a motivational quote for strangers. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Up until about 6 months ago, I genuinely thought I had my whole life mapped out. I own my apartment in a neighborhood I actually like. I had my career on track, a wedding date circled in red on the fridge calendar, and this tidy 5-year plan that included a little house in the suburbs and maybe a dog that ruined all the furniture. On paper, Adam and I made sense. He's 30, works in project management at a tech company downtown, good with numbers, even better with people. When we met at a friend's rooftop barbecue back in 2021, it felt like someone had skipped the awkward phase for us. No games, no disappearing acts. He just showed up and kept showing up. He was funny, charismatic in a way that made waiters remember his order and my parents relax a little. For a long time, our lives were beautifully boring in the best possible way. Weeknights, we'd cook together, arguing over who ruined the sauce and who forgot to preheat the oven. Weekends, we'd sleep in, binge shows, go to farmers markets, and pretend we understood heirloom tomatoes. We'd talk about mortgage rates and neighborhoods like we were auditioning for a comfortable adults commercial. His mom called me the best thing that ever happened to him. My dad liked that he had a stable job and didn't flinch at the word commitment. When Adam proposed last March at this little cabin we rented upstate, I cried so hard he thought he'd done something wrong. Then I laughed and said yes about 20 times. Within an hour, there was a group chat with my closest friends titled Elena's Big Day, and a Pinterest board full of dresses I couldn't afford. For a while, it really did feel like we were building something permanent. The kind of relationship where you don't check your partner's phone because it simply doesn't occur to you to be suspicious. The kind where you can picture your shared gray hair and terrible matching sweaters. Then his past came back to town. Her name was Zoe. Zoe was Adam's ex-girlfriend from college. The kind of ex who appears in every college story with a red cup in her hand and glitter somewhere on her face. I'd seen her in old photos, heard her name in old stories, always told in this breezy, harmless way. Oh, that was back when I was dating Zoe. She's wild, you'd like her. They'd broken up years ago, long before I was in the picture, and allegedly stayed friends, which, to be honest, never bothered me at first. I'm not the you can't talk to anyone you've ever dated type. People have history, I get that. Zoe had moved to Austin after graduation to work at some startup. According to Adam, they kept in touch with the occasional happy birthday text or Instagram like. I'd met her once at a mutual friend's wedding, where she hugged Adam, hugged me, and told me I was so pretty, oh my God, in that way that feels like a compliment and a warning at the same time. Then, last September, Zoe moved back to our city. Suddenly, she wasn't a blurry figure in old photos anymore. She was everywhere. Adam was ecstatic. You're going to love having her around, he kept saying. She's like my emotional chaos twin, in a good way. Along with Zoe came Max, one of Adam's old college buddies. Max is the kind of guy who always speaks at maximum volume, wears watches that cost more than my rent, and treats every bar like his personal stage. He talks about the grind and building an empire, so much you'd think he invented capitalism. The three of them called themselves State Crew after their university. Apparently, there used to be more of them. but these were the core. At first, it was fine, harmless even. They'd grab drinks after work, we'd invite them over for dinner. I watched the way Zoe flung herself onto our couch, like it had belonged to her in another lifetime. I watched the way Adam's shoulders loosened around them, how he laughed louder, looser, like he'd slipped back into an old skin that still kind of fit. I wanted to be happy for him. I know what it's like when old friends come back. Suddenly you're 21 again, and your biggest problem is a midterm and a hangover. Adult life doesn't offer a lot of chances to feel that kind of reckless. So I told myself to relax. I reminded myself that I trusted him, that Zoe was an ex from a lifetime ago, that Max was just loud, not dangerous. The first little shift was the group chat. At some point, State Crew Forever was born. I know because I saw the notification pop up on his phone one night while we were watching a movie. The phone buzzed. He chuckled. Then it buzzed again, and again. Within 5 minutes, my living room had turned into the backdrop for a conversation I wasn't part of. "Sorry, babe, it's just them talking about this stupid college story," he said, thumbs flying. "You'd be bored." I laughed it off. "I'm not allergic to nostalgia, you know." "Yeah, but it's a lot of inside jokes. You'd roll your eyes." He wasn't wrong, but there was something about the way his phone tilted away from me, screen angled just out of sight, that made something cold and small curl in my stomach. It didn't start with big betrayals. It started with little things. Movie nights where he spent more time with his phone than with me. Dinners where he'd glance down, smirk, and say, "I'll tell you later. It's dumb," but never did. Brunches that used to be our thing turning into, "Oh, I already ate with Zoe and Max. We went to that new spot downtown. You were still asleep." He invited me sometimes to loud rooftop bars on Wednesday nights when I had early calls Thursday morning, to events that were less about talking and more about posting stories, clinking glasses, neon lights, "The crew is back" captions. I'd say, "I've got a big meeting tomorrow," or "I'm exhausted, you go." Wanting to be supportive. Wanting to be the cool, understanding fiancé, not the nag who pulls him away from his friends. Looking back, that might have been my first mistake. Not because I should have policed his social life, but because my absence made it so easy to turn me into the outsider. Then came the fitness era. Adam had always been moderately active. Gym when he remembered. Weekend hikes if the weather was nice. Nothing serious. Suddenly, he was waking up at 5:30 a.m. to go to the CrossFit gym Zoe swore by. He bought new gym clothes, expensive ones with tiny logos and big price tags. He started talking about macros and meal prep like he was reading off a script. "I didn't even know you knew what a macro was," I joked one morning as he weighed chicken on a food scale. "Zoe's been helping me with a program," he said. "She's really into this stuff." Something about the way he said her name, casual, familiar, soft around the edges, made that cold little knot in my stomach twist a bit tighter. I still told myself I was overthinking it, because that's what we do, right? We gaslight ourselves first. "You're jealous. You're being insecure. You're going to push him away if you make it a big deal." He's allowed to have friends. He's allowed to talk to his ex. It's fine. It has to be fine. It wasn't fine. But at that point, I didn't know just how not fine it was going to get. I didn't know there was a vineyard and a bed and a folder full of photos waiting months down the line. All I knew was that my fiancé was slowly drifting out of the life we were building and back into one I didn't recognize. And it all led to one nostalgia weekend that I wasn't invited to. That's the trip that blew everything up. By the time winter rolled in, it felt like our entire social life had been taken hostage by Adam's college nostalgia tour. We used to split our weekends between my friends and his, work events, the occasional quiet night in. Now everything revolved around what Zoe and Max wanted to do. Zoe wants to check out this new rooftop bar. Max scored tickets to this comedy show. It's going to be sick. State Crew is doing brunch at that place downtown. You remember? The one with the giant pancakes? Every story started with Zoe or Max and ended with me feeling like a guest star in my own relationship. Sometimes Adam would invite me along, but the invite always came with a subtle pressure not to accept. "You can come if you want, babe, but it's going to be super loud," he'd say, already half dressed to go. "And it's a late show. You'll be exhausted tomorrow." So most of the time, I'd kiss his cheek, tell him to have fun, and stay home with Netflix and takeout, convincing myself I was being mature, supportive, non-possessive. The group chat turned into a fourth presence in our home. State Crew Forever notifications chimed constantly, this annoying little sound that started to feel like an alarm signaling, You're about to lose his attention. We'd be watching a movie, and his phone would light up every 30 seconds. I could see the grin form before he even read the messages. What's funny? I'd ask. Just something Max sent, he'd say, fingers flying. You don't want to know. It's dumb. Try me, I'd push lightly. He'd just shake his head, still smiling at the screen. Inside joke. I'll explain later. He never did. Then came the passcode. We'd always been casual about our phones. Not in an obsessive, checking each other's messages way, but in a, hey, can you Google this for me way. If his phone buzzed while he was in the shower and it looked important, I'd answer. If mine rang while I was cooking, he'd pick up. No big deal. One day I grabbed his phone from the coffee table to check the time, and a passcode screen popped up. Since when do you have a passcode? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. He didn't look up from the TV. Work thing. They told us to update our security. Really? Did my company miss the memo? I joked. He finally glanced over. Elena, everyone has a passcode. It's not a big deal. Don't make it weird. I didn't, out loud. Inside, something broke off and sank. After that, the phone was glued to him. Face down on tables, tucked in his pocket at all times. Taken into the bathroom. No more phones left unattended on the coffee table. Battery dying on the armrest. The invisible wall between us and him and his friends grew a little higher every day. The night everything crystallized into something I couldn't ignore was Zoe's birthday. She picked an Italian restaurant I'd only ever seen on food blogs, white tablecloths, candlelight, a wine list thicker than my lease agreement. The kind of place where the server says the specials in a soft voice and everyone nods like they actually understood. Come on, it's her birthday, Adam said, adjusting his collar in the mirror. We have to go big. You'll like it. I did like the food. I didn't like the feeling of being an extra at their private reunion. Zoe held court at the head of the table, telling some elaborate story about a disastrous Hinge date where the guy showed up late and suggested splitting one appetizer to save room for dessert. Max was her hype man, refilling glasses, shouting "no way" at all the right moments. Adam? Adam was right next to her, laughing like every word she said was stand-up material. I sat beside him, smiling politely, twirling pasta around my fork, and trying not to feel like the quiet girlfriend who doesn't get the jokes. Every few minutes, Zoe would touch his arm when she laughed. Max would lean over them, add some detail from back in the day, and they'd all dissolve into a memory I wasn't part of. At some point between the main course and dessert, Zoe got this look on her face, that I'm about to drop a bomb expression people get when they're in love with drama. So, she announced, clinking her fork against her glass, I have a surprise. The table quieted. Max smirked like he already knew. Adam straightened in his chair. I booked us a weekend getaway, she said, reaching for her wine. Napa Valley, boutique winery hotel, spa, tastings, the whole thing. Like we always talked about doing in college, remember? Max whistled. No way, you're kidding. Nope, booked and paid. It's me, you, and... She turned to Adam, eyes bright. You, obviously. I waited for the rest of the sentence. Me, you, and Adam and Elena, or at least a you guys. Something that included the woman wearing his ring. It never came. Adam was already nodding, his face lighting up in a way it hadn't in months. Shut up, you did not. I did, she grinned. You two idiots owe me your souls. I swallowed a mouthful of wine that suddenly tasted sharp. Just the three of you? I asked, keeping my voice light. Zoe waved a hand. It's kind of a college nostalgia thing. You know, recreating the old road trip energy. You'd be bored out of your mind, Elena. It's us yelling old sorority chants and complaining about our student loans. I smiled tightly. I also went to college. I'm familiar with student loans. Adam squeezed my thigh under the table. Babe, you hate wine, remember? Your exact words were, it tastes like expensive vinegar. That doesn't mean I want my fiancé going on a romantic weekend to wine country with his ex-girlfriend, I said, still smiling, still playing nice. It's not romantic, Zoe cut in, her tone a little too quick. It's just us. We've been talking about this trip forever. Exactly, Adam said. It's like a bucket list thing. We'll just be drinking, talking about dumb old stories. You'd roll your eyes the whole time. The birthday cake arrived then, candles flickering, everyone singing. I sang too, but the words felt heavy on my tongue, my chest tight. The cake tasted like cardboard. On the drive home, the facade cracked. We were barely out of the parking lot when I spoke. So, that trip to Napa, I said calmly, staring out at the string of headlights ahead of us. You really think that's appropriate? Adam's hands tightened on the wheel. Here we go. Here we go what? I asked. He sighed dramatically. Elena, it's a weekend with friends. That's it. A weekend with your ex in wine country, at a couple-style resort. That's not nothing, Adam. There's 3 of us, he said. How is that romantic? Zoe and I are friends. Max is there. You're being ridiculous. No, I said, feeling fire creep up my throat. What's ridiculous is expecting your fiancé to smile and wave while you go on a trip that looks exactly like a couple's getaway with your ex. Even if literally nothing happens, it's disrespectful. He laughed once, humorless. There it is, controlling Elena. I knew she'd show up eventually. I am not saying you can't have friends, I shot back. I am saying there is a difference between grabbing drinks with your ex and spending a whole weekend sharing sunsets and wine tastings with her while you're engaged to someone else. You're overreacting, he said, turning onto our street. You always do this when you feel left out. You twist things. Oh, there it was, the narrative he'd been building quietly in his head. By the time we pulled into our building's parking lot, my hands were shaking. He put the car in park and stared straight ahead. I'm going, he said. I'm not canceling a trip my friends are excited about because my fiancé can't handle the idea of me having a life outside of her. I stared at him, the word fiancé sounding increasingly foreign. This isn't about you having a life, I said quietly. It's about you respecting the one we're supposed to be building together. He didn't answer, just got out of the car and slammed the door harder than necessary. That night, he slept facing the wall. I stared at the ceiling and felt something inside me calcify. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. Made coffee, kissed my forehead on autopilot, said, "We'll figure it out." Then left for work like our relationship wasn't dangling over a cliff. I was still trying to decide how to figure it out when my phone started buzzing an hour later. First, a text from my friend Hannah. Are you okay? Then a screenshot. Adam's post. PSA. Women really think they own you just because you put a ring on their finger. I'm still my own person with my own friends and my own life. If you can't handle that, you're not ready for marriage. Guys, don't let anyone control you. Ladies, if he tries to, walk away. Hundreds of likes already. Comments piling up. Preach. Don't let her clip your wings, bro. Controlling partners are the worst. And of course, Zoe. Yes, king. Max had liked it within minutes. I read it once, twice, 3 times, just to be sure I wasn't hallucinating. The man I was supposed to marry in 8 months had just publicly reduced our private argument to some cheap empowerment quote for people who didn't know either of us. He'd taken my perfectly reasonable boundary and reframed it as oppression. I could have commented. I could have posted my own version, told everyone about the passcodes and late nights and nostalgia trips with his ex. I didn't. Instead, I opened Facebook, went to my profile, and clicked Edit next to my relationship status. Engaged to Adam Mitchell, single. The notification went out silently to everyone who had just watched him call me controlling. Then I opened my email and pulled up the folder labeled Wedding. Venue, caterer, photographer, DJ, florist, cake, hotel block. I made phone calls until my voice went hoarse. I'm calling to cancel our booking. Yes, I understand about the non-refundable deposit. No, there won't be a reschedule. Every time I hung up, something inside me felt a little lighter. The wedding I'd spent a year planning was being dismantled in less than 2 hours, like knocking over a tower of blocks I'd carefully built while someone else played games behind my back. After the vendors, I messaged our out-of-town family and friends, told them the wedding was off, that I'd explain later. I canceled the tux rental, the rehearsal dinner, deleted the Pinterest board called Mrs. Carter Mitch because even the name made my skin crawl now. Finally, I texted Adam. Since I'm apparently so controlling, I've canceled the wedding. The lease is in my name. Your things are packed by the door. You have until tonight to pick them up. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I put my phone face down and started packing. His side of the closet first. Shirts I'd ironed, suits I'd picked out with him, the hoodie I used to steal when I was cold, toiletries from the bathroom, that stupid collection of gaming controllers tangled beside the TV, the framed photo of us from the cabin, the one he'd used to propose. I wrapped the glass in bubble wrap. Love doesn't make you careless with people's things, even when they're careless with you. By the time he walked through the door that evening, there were 6 boxes lined up in the hallway like a barricade. He froze. Elena, what is this? I leaned against the kitchen counter, suddenly very, very calm. You said you're your own person, I said. Congratulations. Now you get to live like it. When Adam walked into our apartment that night, the boxes were lined up in a neat row against the wall. 6 of them, taped shut, labeled in black marker. His name on every side. He froze in the doorway, keys still dangling between his fingers. Elena, well, what is this? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry or shake or try to make him feel guilty. I just leaned against the kitchen counter, arms folded, completely calm. You posted about me online, I said, so consider this my official statement. He swallowed. Babe, come on, that post wasn't about you. It was general. You used my life to get likes, I replied, and you humiliated me to strangers while calling it empowerment. His face twitched. We should talk. Without all this. He gestured at the boxes like they were props in a scene he didn't remember agreeing to. We did talk, I said. You chose the audience. Now you can live with their applause. The silence pressed in from all sides. After a long, shaky breath, he finally stepped forward and started lifting boxes. Every thud of cardboard against the floor was a small funeral. At the door, he paused. His voice cracked as he said, You'll regret this, Elena. You're throwing away 4 years. Over nothing. I looked at him directly. If you think it was nothing, then I'm glad I ended it. He closed the door behind him, and my apartment exhaled. For the first time in months, I could breathe. The weeks after the breakup came in waves. The first week was bliss, an unexpected kind of freedom. I slept diagonally across the bed, left my hair products spread on the sink, cooked dinner for one without apologizing for the mess. Week 2 was rage. Big, loud anger that lived behind my ribs and made me replay every ignored red flag I'd convinced myself was trust. By week 3, the messages started. We need to talk. Please, Elena. You're misunderstanding. Just hear me out. I didn't respond. Then came the calls. 10 in one afternoon. I let them all go to voicemail. Let him talk to the empty space where I used to be. Next came the apologies. I shouldn't have posted that. I was stressed. I didn't mean to make you the villain. Still, I said nothing. But time is sneaky. When you love someone for years, your memories start defending them. Suddenly, I was remembering the way he held me during my worst nights, the way he proposed with shaking hands, the way we planned a future like it was already a certainty, and the doubt began creeping in during the quietest hours. That's when he sent the message that stopped me. I cut them off. Zoe and Max, everything. Please meet me once. That's all I'm asking. I sat with it. Not because I trusted him, but because some wounds don't close until you understand how they were made. We met at a diner near my apartment. When Adam walked in, he looked smaller, like he'd been emptied out. Elena, he said quietly, sliding into the booth. Thank you for coming. I didn't answer. I messed everything up, he continued. I know that. I panicked. I felt like I was losing myself, and instead of talking to you, I acted out. He slid his phone across the table, unlocked. Look, he said, Zoe's blocked. Max is blocked. I deleted the group chat. I've stopped going to that gym. I'm doing counseling. I'm trying. I stared at the screen. The evidence of his cleanup was all there. Contacts gone, messages wiped, social accounts muted. He kept talking, his voice trembling. I forgot how to be someone stable. I let nostalgia and ego get in the way of the life we were building. I hurt you. I betrayed your trust, but I don't want to lose you. 2 hours passed like seconds. When he finally asked if we could try again, I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no. 2 weeks later, after counseling sessions and painfully honest conversations, Adam moved back in. It wasn't romantic. It felt like learning to walk again after breaking both legs. He was attentive, present. He came home early, put his phone face up on the table, canceled nights out, cooked with me again, laughed with me again. Even my therapist said, people do change when they're confronted with losing something important. My mom cried out of relief. My dad grumbled but accepted it. My best friend Hannah rolled her eyes and hugged me anyway. And slowly, I let myself believe maybe this time would be different. Maybe we could rebuild something steadier, smaller, but real. But even when someone repaints the walls and replaces the furniture, you can still smell the fire. Every time Adam joked about college, a tiny knot formed in my stomach. Whenever his phone buzzed, I felt myself tense, even though he always showed me the screen. Something inside me, some sharp, quiet instinct, whispered that the danger hadn't passed. It had simply gone underground. I ignored it. I wanted peace. Then, one Tuesday evening, while cleaning the bedroom closet, I found his old iPad tucked behind a stack of blankets. No passcode, fully charged. I picked it up. A notification slid across the screen. New message from Zoe. Zoe, the woman he'd sworn he blocked. The woman he'd sworn he erased. The woman he claimed was no longer in our lives at all. My chest tightened, my fingers pressed the screen almost on reflex. And when the message thread opened, revealing months of conversations, and my whole world tilted. When the message thread opened, the first thing I noticed wasn't the words. It was the dates. Months. Messages stretching back long before the Napa trip, long before the birthday dinner, long before the fights and the public post. Back to when I still believed we were unshakable. Back when I was choosing wedding colors and tasting cakes while he was choosing her. The most recent message was simple. Zoe, I can't stop thinking about Napa. My thumb hovered over the screen. I scrolled. There were hundreds of messages. Late-night texts full of nostalgia, inside jokes I'd never heard, memories they'd resurrected like artifacts from a museum only they had the key to. There were messages where Adam told her she still had the same spark. Messages where Zoe wrote, "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't broken up." And Adam replied, "Yeah, I think about that sometimes too." My chest tightened, breath thinning. I scrolled faster. Their conversations were long, intimate, emotional. This wasn't harmless friendship. This was a slow burn relationship happening in parallel to the one I thought I had. Then I reached the photos. The ones he never posted, the ones he deleted from his phone, the ones he thought would disappear if he just remembered to empty the right folder. A vineyard selfie, Adam holding Zoe's waist, their faces tilted toward the sunset. A tour photo, her head on his shoulder. A candid shot, hands intertwined as they walked down a row of grapevines. My entire body went cold. But the next image made something inside me actually break. A mirror selfie, in a hotel room. Sheets pulled up around both of them. Zoe pressed against his chest. Adam smiling. The caption, "Best weekend ever." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat on the closet floor, iPad in hand, while something heavy and quiet settled inside me. It wasn't shock. Shock is sharp and bright. This was something else, something colder, like a door closing. When I finally stood up, the world felt different, smaller, clearer. I emailed every screenshot to myself, then to a backup email, then to a folder on my laptop labeled insurance. If there was one thing I refused to let him do ever again, it was gaslight me. When he walked through the door that evening, humming like nothing was wrong, I was sitting on the couch with the laptop open. "Elena?" he said, smiling faintly. "You look serious. Everything okay?" "Sit," I replied. He blinked but obeyed. I turned the laptop toward him. The photos filled the screen. His smile died instantly. What is this?" His voice cracked. "You tell me," I said calmly, because I'd love to hear the context. He started with denial. "That's old. Elena, that's from years ago. That's not..." I clicked to the timestamp, last month. Then the next photo, then the next. His face drained of all color. "Elena, I swear it's not what..." "Don't lie," I said softly. "You've already done enough of that." He shifted tactics instantly, desperation flooding in. Okay, yes, we kissed, but it didn't mean..." I clicked to the bed selfie. He choked on his breath. "How many times?" I asked. He stared at the floor. "Elena." "How many?" I repeated. Silence stretched until it hurt. Finally, in barely a whisper, 3, that weekend. Just that weekend. 3. 3 times while I was at home, answering wedding vendor emails and making Pinterest boards with our future on it. 3 times while he was sending me selfies of the great views and cute winery dogs. 3 times before he came home, kissed me hello, and swore on his grandmother's ashes that nothing had happened. Something inside me crystallized, a kind of clarity I had never felt before. "Get out," I said. "Wait, Elena, please." "Get out." He started crying, real tears, hands shaking, eyes red, shoulders slumped. "I love you," he begged. "It was a mistake. I was scared. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted." "You knew enough to hide your iPad," I said. "You knew enough to delete your messages. You knew enough to lie every day for months." "I can change," he whispered. "I will change. Please don't do this." "You already did," I replied. He broke then, collapsed, sobbing, trying to reach for me. I stepped back, and something in that moment, the space between his fingertips and my arm, felt like the end of the universe. I called Ray, our mutual friend, the one who had warned me this would happen. He came over within 20 minutes and helped me change the locks while Adam shoved clothes into a duffel bag. He cried the entire time. I didn't shed a single tear. When he walked out of the building, the air felt cold but clean. The aftermath. 2 weeks later, Karma arrived wearing someone else's heartbreak. A mutual friend messaged me, "You should know what happened with Zoe and Max. Turns out Max had a serious girlfriend, a long-term one, living together in Portland. She found out about Napa, either through his phone or one of their mutual friends. Max panicked, blamed Zoe entirely, told his girlfriend that Zoe had thrown herself at him. He blocked Zoe on everything, just like that. Zoe lost her best weekend ever as fast as she'd helped destroy my engagement. As for Adam, he moved back to his parents' house temporarily. He sent apology after apology, all unanswered. His mother called me to say she was ashamed and that I deserved better. I didn't disagree. Rebuilding. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into projects, stayed late, earned a promotion within 3 months. My apartment felt like mine again. Warm, quiet, peaceful. And somewhere in that quiet, I met someone new. His name is Zane, a graphic designer with soft eyes and a gentle laugh. He doesn't hide his phone. He doesn't live in nostalgia. He looks at me like I'm real, not an accessory or an audience member. When he introduced me to his friends, he held my hand the whole time, proud and steady. No secrecy, no performance, no exes lurking in group chats. Just ease, something I forgot relationships were allowed to have. The last message. 8 months after the breakup, I got a text from an unknown number. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't blame you. You deserve better. I hope you found someone who appreciates you. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I blocked the number. Some bridges burn so thoroughly that even the ashes aren't worth sifting through. Some apologies arrive long after the door has closed. And some people only realize your worth when they're standing outside the home they once shared with you, staring at a lock they no longer have the key for.